Awesome. So my next question is about the themes of the book. So slavery and freedom are two really main themes throughout the novel. And I'm wondering how you balanced talking about some of those really dark realities of slavery that Mosey and the other characters experienced with the novel being middle grade.
So, uh, as a former teacher, I taught elementary school for 27 years, 25 in Los Angeles Unified School District, and 2 years as an assistant teacher in New York at Ethical Culture School. I believe in being merciful to children. And since the publishing industry, they have to not exactly typecast, but place your book somewhere. I chose middle grade, fully aware that I was going to do the horrific parts, and they do exist, but I was going to do them very quickly and very much to the point. I feel children have their whole lives, if they're interested, to delve into the more realistic, the more historical writings on slavery and what actually went on. There's a bit of horror in the book, but I believe I handled it in a way. Well came in there. Why? I believe I handled it as well as I knew how by making those horrific moments very brief, very to the point, and then following up with a very strong, persevering protagonist in Mosaic. My feeling about slavery and freedom is that there are all kinds of slavery and all kinds of freedom. I believe we are all, and I shouldn't say we are all because that's not quite accurate, but there are so many ways to be enslaved. And it's not all talking about the historical slavery that African Americans went through. Do you hear that little girl calling for her mom?
No.
Okay. So, what I did, just I want to look down here at the notes. What I did is just what I told you. The horror is very brief, to the point, and it's followed by perseverance. There is the slavery of being in an unhappy relationship and unable to leave. The slavery of being in a job that you really are not suited for, that you don't like, but it pays the bills. The slavery to location. You'd love to locate somewhere else, but maybe you have responsibilities where you are.
Right.
And then there's freedom. Freedom is very much an internal thing. Mosaic is enslaved externally,
Mm-hmm.
but inside, he holds on to freedom. How? By continuing to work towards his goal, which is to leave the plantation and to do as some missionaries suggested, that he get to New York City, where there were schools. They were called colored schools, sometimes called African schools for freed slaves. So, because he is internally always free, that is what I wrote, and that is what I presented, and that was the download that I received to write.
I think I first of all I love that. It is interesting too because he's contrasted a little bit with some of the other people who are enslaved at Pepperwick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Specifically, Aura. At first, she seems like she also um, wants to be free. She's ready to escape as well, and then she becomes the housemaid, or like I can't remember the title, but she becomes the mistress's personal maid, and it seems like her mindset changes, so she no longer feels like she's going to escape or she can escape. She's kind of almost seems to be accepting of her life, unlike Mosey, who's always kind of striving for a little bit more. He wants to teach, he wants to help other people become free in the way that he is.
Mhm. So the contrast there is there's this wonderful scene that another writer gave to me about them being up in the tree and they're looking at this expanse of glorious Pepperwick. And she is very realistic and tells him there'll be slave hunters out there. They'll all be looking for us. There's no way we can make it. And even if we do arrive in freedom, what are we going to do? We don't know anyone there. We don't have any friends or family there. And he, of course, always takes the high road is let's see what will happen. Let's go forward and see. I think she's captivated by beauty and comfort. Now, even though the beauty and comfort are not really hers, by working in the mansion, in the big house, she gets to expose herself to all of the fine art, fine furnishings, beautiful gardens. She's close to all of the happenings and gossip that the kitchen staff knows, and she gets comfortable. And I think that also happens to many people. They know something is not theirs. An example is a person who has a job for not much money, but they feel as though this company is theirs and they will do anything. They might be in a low paying position or what would be considered a lower status position, but they've been with the company 10, 15, 20 years, and they will defend and protect that company. These are people who don't want to know from a union meeting, and they follow the boss's direction, and they feel they have internalized the company as Aura internalizes the mansion. And then she gets upgraded. She's not just a maid who's doing dusting and polishing. She's actually personal handmaid to the planter's wife, and this gives her further intimacy, looking at all of these clothes, looking at all of the shoes, and she internalizes it and becomes it. So she decides she'll marry there and stay. And I think it is so fascinating that it was only the pioneers who walked out of slavery. Those were the real pioneers. Other people made their peace with it, or perhaps were driven insane with it. Some committed suicide during it. But whatever it was that pioneering spirit to say, well, the journey may be threatening, but I'm going on the journey anyway. Those are the people who got out early.